Kellen Nitro here, just wanted to show you something that'll be coming to Drag Files in the coming months. It is the Retro Tape Review. Join me from a few years back as I review Decade of Frills 1 and 2. Let's take a look at what arguably a lot of collectors will say should be the first Diamond P video you pick up. This is the original Decade of Frills, or as we call it, as us collectors call them, Decade of Frills 1. And it was advertised at the time as the ultimate drag racing experience. To sum up, Decade of Frills is a retrospective of classic NHRA drag racing from the 1970s to the middle of the 1980s, an era in which most experts perceive as drag racing's golden era. The tape itself is about 95 minutes long and is hosted by Drag Racing Hall of Famers Don the Snake Prudhomme and Steve Evans. They provide expert commentary and sufficient backstory to all of the clips and events shown in the video. For newbies to drag racing, this tape also features a segment early on focusing around the history of the NHRA. Steve and the Snake talk about how different events help shape the history of the sport to what it ultimately has become today.
But before anybody heard of a funny car, you were out campaigning Top Fuel Dragsters. That was the king of the sport.
For about 10 years worth. Yeah, we were pounding the pavements, that's for sure, with Top Fuel Dragsters. And in those days, the engine was in front of you, just like this one right here.
Scary.
Yeah, I've kept this car. It's because it's been really good to me. We won the Indy Nationals Raceway Park 2 years in a row with this car, and it's just something I've always liked.
This tape is indeed a must-have, and unlike most sports documentaries and highlight packages of its time, it has aged well. Its original release was in 1984, and Diamond P continued to distribute it until the company closed up shop in the early 2000s. It's hard to pick one single moment from Decade of Frills to show you here. My advice, order a copy online and see it for yourself. I will give Decade of Frills number 1, the first Decade of Frills, an 8.5 out of 10. It's great. It still stands up today. Legendary archival footage. Great storytelling by Steve Evans and Don the Snake Prudhomme. And it is a must-see and a must-own for any drag racing and motorsports collector out there. You can pick it up on eBay at a fairly cheap price. And I know tons of collectors that will also sell you either their copy, because people buy on... And I kid you not, people buy on eBay and on Kijiji like box loads of drag racing stuff. And this is usually part of the box load, whether it be parts or pieces or, for their cars or actual like VHS and DVD tapes of the sport. So, but if there's a 1, there has to be a 2. Decade of Frills 2 was released shortly after the start of the 1990 NHRA season. Where Decade 1 was a retrospective of drag racing history until the mid-1980s, 2 is a chronological highlight reel of action just from the decade of the 1980s. Steve Evans is once again joined by Don the Snake Prudhomme to take the viewer through all the highlights, emotion, excitement, and danger of championship NHRA racing in the 1980s. One cool thing you see under this format is the evolution of the sport over a 10-year period. The 1980s were a fun time to be a drag racing fan, and this tape reflects that. It seems like every year there was a new all-time speed or ET record being set, or a spectacular incident in which the driver heroically escapes to race another day. Personally, I feel that 2 stands up on its own as a standalone title. In fact, my introduction into the Decade of Frills series many years ago was with watching 2 first. I never saw 1 until a couple of years afterwards. Decade of Frills 2 remains to this day a must-own title from the Diamond P series. If you see this tape anywhere on sale, pick it up. So what do I give Decade of Frills Volume 2? Well, it gets the 8.5 out of 10 treatment as well. A solid addition. This would be the last Diamond P Sports produced Decade of Frills tape in the Decade of Frills series. However, Diamond P Sports was not done. Oh no, they had hundreds of titles that came out during this period, even after this period, that collectors still seek and still view to this day. And these are the best records of NHRA drag racing from that era, from say the mid 70s on to 1999. These guys did it all. It was just a phenomenal production company. And we'll also take a look at them a little bit more later on.